morning, people. It's Sunday morning and it is the match review from the game yesterday between Sunderland and Arsenal. Obviously, it ended in a draw, disappointingly. And so today I'm going to go through my reactions to the game, a bit of analysis, and overall my thoughts of how it all went down. First of all, just to congratulate Sunderland, really. They played a good game. They were a tough opponent. Really hard to play against, a little bit dirty at times, I'll get into that later, but take nothing away from them. They pushed right to the end. The first time we've conceded a goal, a shot on target in ages, and we ended up conceding two. So, well done to them, definitely. Xhaka had a great game. He performed as I expected him to. He's a beast, and I kind of knew he was going to be having a dominant game against us, but I mean, like I said, well done Sunderland, played well, but let's get into it from the first half, really. We started really badly. We weren't able to play our usual game. Obviously, we played in the Champions League on Tuesday. Sunderland played on Monday in the Premier League, and so obviously they had an extra day rest and we had to travel, and it felt like that affected the players a little bit. They seemed a little bit leggy. A lot of them did play in that game midweek, and we haven't been able to mix up our forward line. Merino's having to play. We haven't got any strikers again, despite how many players we bought over the summer, so that's disappointing that we weren't able to face them with at least one striker. I think that would have helped us to push them back a bit. In the end, it was a little bit too easy for them to control us. They were able to keep their men behind the ball. It was really difficult to play the ball in their half, really. The game was a little bit of a midfield battle, and no one was really able to get a foothold in the game, and that was disappointing. But like I said, having played in the Champions League on Tuesday probably affected that a little bit, but still, it was the last game before the international break. We should be giving our all, but it's hard to perform game in, game out, every 3-4 days. It's a lot, but that's why we have a big squad, and it's a shame that we weren't able to hold on right to the end of the game, even though we managed to get a couple of goals. But we'll get into exactly who, how and why in a second. First of all, leading to their first goal, it was never a foul by Zubimendi. That was terrible. He won the ball. It was so clear that he won the ball, and that was an awful decision from the ref. But still, you got to defend situations like that. They were still quite far from goal with the free kick, but it was a really great ball in and by their goalkeeper. It was a really long ball, and it was just not dealt with, really. Ballard, out-muscles Rice, and the ball is allowed to bounce in our penalty area. It's headed back to Ballard, and again he outmuscles Rice. Rice was just a little bit off it in that first half. He tends to grow into games more, but in that first half, particularly in that moment, he just got a little bit bullied in that instance. And Ballard, wow, what a great finish. He just barged through and whacked it past Raya. Raya had no chance with that goal at the end of the day. It was a great finish. And we were in trouble. One chance, one goal for them, really, and not much had happened in terms of them threatening us until that moment. Like I said, it was a terrible bit of reffing. It was so clear that he'd won the ball. And to be honest, the quality of the refereeing in that whole game was pretty poor. It is by no way an excuse for whatever happened with the scoreline, but at the end of the day, the refereeing was terrible. He kept giving decisions, 50-50s kept going against us, and Sunderland were allowed to be overly physical, I thought, and they were getting away with it, but a little thing, and he was pulling us up on it. Merino gets clearly elbowed in the head. I'm sorry, that's a penalty. Clearly elbowed in the head. The player looks at Merino, raises his arm, and moves it into his head. I mean, what's going on here? That's a clear penalty. And nothing was done. VAR barely looked at it. Merino's having like stitches basically put in his head, but it's not a foul. Unbelievable, to be honest. That was just another example of the poor refereeing during the game. Again, not an excuse for drawing, but it's makes things a little bit difficult when you're having to play a game and play against the ref as well. I mean, overall, the quality in refereeing in this country leaves a lot to be desired, and so it was in that game. But still, it was a great finish. Like I said, you got to defend moments like that, and fair play to Sunderland. It was a great goal. And so it went on for the first half. We were still trying to play our game. It was really difficult to play in behind them. Sunderland are supremely well organised. I was really impressed with them. It's the first time I've really seen them properly up close this season, and you can see why they are where they are. Although they do love breaking up the game. It was hard to get any rhythm because they were doing these niggly fouls, which were just being allowed by the ref, and the game was, it was hard to get any rhythm in the game. I think in the first 20 minutes there was about 5 minutes of football total, and we ended up having 10 minutes injury time at the end of the first half. Just goes to show how little football was played, and that was an issue, because that's the way Sunderland like it. I can see if they do that in most games, I can understand why they are where they are, able to break up play like that. They stop the other teams getting a rhythm, and in that way, them being clinical, one chance, one goal, you're going to win games like that. And I should know, because we've been winning games in a similar way, maybe with a bit more quality and control, but still, it was quite hard to get any rhythm going against Sunderland in that first half. And so we went in at half-time 1-0, and you were hoping that Arteta would be able to lift the boys and get them refocused for the second half and being able to push on. And to be fair, we came out in the second half looking really good. We started being able to put our passes together. We started to dominate the play. We started playing more in their half, started putting them under pressure, and that was great. Finally, the kind of handbrake was off, or maybe the players woke up a little bit. Like I said, they played in midweek. It can be tough, playing particularly away in Europe in the Champions League, and then playing away again in the Premier League. It's tough, and so that first half was difficult, but in the second half we started to play our football and started to look good, Leading up to our first goal, the equaliser by Saka, incredible. Rice started to dominate the play a little bit better, like I knew he would in the second half. Like I said, he tends to grow into games as they go on. He's got this incredible engine that just, needs to warm up, and by the second half, he's ready to go. And it was great play from him in the middle of the park, breaking up play, winning the ball, plays a nice ball into Eze. Eze turns and feeds it to Marino. Marino takes his time, waits for Saka, plays him in. And what a wonderful finish from Saka, right-footed, near post, bang. Anybody that's been criticising him, you got to know that Saka's going to step up. He's going to get those goals, he's going to get those assists, he's going to perform, and it was really nice to see him getting on the score sheet, and it looked like we were going to really take control of the game. At that moment, it looked like we were the ones that were going to push for the second, and it seemed like we were going to be able to take this game away from Sunderland. We started to really play nice football, put them under pressure. Sunderland were trying to get out from under the cosh, but it was difficult for them. We were really putting it on them. They managed to get, a little bit of control now and then and try to threaten, but we were looking pretty good defensively, and it was hard for them to fashion chances. And like I said, we were starting to dominate play really well. And Zubimendi hits the crossbar. My God, that guy, after the goal he scored earlier on in the season, it looked like he was going to smash another one in, and for it to just bang off the crossbar, so unlucky. But Zubi was having a good game as well. Having missed the midweek game, he came in and he was somebody who at least was fresh and able to give his all for the team. And it's a shame that didn't go in, but we were putting them under the cosh, and it was coming. I could smell the goal. It was coming when Trossard picked the ball up. I was saying, this is it. Look, you could see Trossard trying to find space, moving left and right, trying to buy a little yard here or there. And I knew once he got the space from his position, he was going to whack it in the back of the net. And that's what he did. Fantastic goal from Trossard. He's a clutch player. He's going to come up clutch for Arsenal. He scores big goals, important goals, winning goals, equalisers. You can just rely on that guy, and especially with Martinelli being out, Madueke being out, us not having a lot of other options up front, we've been relying on Trossard to really help the team, and he did his job. He got the goal. It was a fantastic finish, and at that point, it looked like we could go on and win the game. I mean, I was over the moon. I was, when we scored that goal, it was fantastic to go in, and I really thought, okay, this is it. We're showing the fight of champions and being able to go and win at a really tough place, a really tough ground, when you're not only playing against a really organized team, but you've got the crowd against you, you've got the ref, making ridiculous decisions as well. And so it was a tough place, and to finally be 2-1 up and fighting back from that terrible first half performance, it was really wonderful from the guys, and a great effort, which made the end feel all the worse, really. What a sucker punch. We were a couple of minutes away from getting out of there with the 3 points, saying thank you very much, thanks for having us, see you never, right? But just in the last couple of minutes, they managed to get the equalising goal, and Raya shouldn't have come off his line for the ball. It was being fought. Gabriel was there, putting under pressure, and what an acrobatic finish. You gotta hold out in those moments, really. If you want to get the 3 points, you gotta play right until the end, and usually we do. And Raya's usually so secure, so I don't want to single out Raya for it. Really, we win as a team, we lose in a team, but it was a horrible way to drop a couple of points there when we could have really stretched our lead at the top of the league and really put pressure on the teams that are playing later today. So it felt a little bit like a loss, Perhaps it's a big point at the end of the season when everything's done and dusted. We won't know until a bit later. I mean, you can't win them all, and if you can't win it, don't lose it. But when you're in a winning position at that point, with only a couple of minutes left of the game, like I said, it feels like a loss, so quite disappointing. But you got to keep perspective in these moments. We still haven't lost the game in ages. Sunderland are a tough team. They're right up there at the top of the league, and they're going to give everybody a tough game. Not many teams are going to go to Sunderland and get 3 points this season. That's a fact. So we may count that as a big point at the end. Who knows? We'll have to see. You can't win them all, but disappointing to say the least. That's for sure. But credit to Sunderland for fighting to the end. That's what you got to do. That will, stand them in good stead for the rest of the season. They're going to be fine. They're not going to go down. They're going to be there next season. So we'll get a rematch there at the Stadium of Light. They've still got to come to the Emirates later. So, come on, guys. Next game is waiting for you. It's waiting for you, yeah? We're still 6 points at the top of the table, ahead of Chelsea. Chelsea won yesterday, 3-0. Big win for them against Wolves, but Wolves are a bit of the whipping boys of the group, Tottenham, United played out to a draw. That one, I think, felt similar to our game for Spurs, although they were playing at home, so perhaps a bit more of a sickener. But that's football, you can't win them all. We're still at the top of the table. We're still looking good this season. We just need to get a few players back, get a few strikers back, fix up in defence. I think this break will do us good. We're a bit mentally drained. I think the pressure of that clean sheet, that's the thing when you're on runs like that, where it's like, oh, this hasn't happened in so long, can they keep that going, and it puts a little bit of extra pressure. So now that we've conceded a goal, great, we can wipe that out and just focus on winning games again, and sure, keeping clean sheets, that will come, but it's going to be less of a talked about thing, and we can just really focus on playing our game. And yeah, there's a huge game to come later today. Manchester City versus Liverpool, Etihad Stadium. Definitely going to be watching that and probably do a match reaction after that, see where the table lies at the end of the weekend. Hopefully they play out to a draw, and this point feels like, not so bad at the end of the day, but disappointing point. Hey, you know what to do. Don't forget, like, share, subscribe, grow the community, and I'll see you at the next game, people. Enjoy your Sunday. Take care. Peace. Bye.